Yes, folks, this video is about Cross the Rubicon, New Zealand's largest conservative right-wing YouTube channel. Anyway, the guy who fronts the channel asked me a couple of weeks back if I would like to do a video with him. But as that was kind of difficult or logistically difficult to achieve, I've decided to comment on a video of his. A video where he had a group of like-minded people gather to discuss political topics. Anyway, as his video is kind of long, I've only been able to highlight some of it. Anyway, you'll get the idea.
Hi there, how's it going? I've got together today, it's the 30th of June, and I've got together with 4 like-minded friends, and one has agreed to go on camera, the others aren't, because of obvious reasons in New Zealand. And so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about world politics and world issues and what's affecting us and freedom of speech, and especially what is happening in New Zealand. And we're going to raise certain topics, and we're just going to let it flow. So just bear with us. This is not the BBC or CNN, and we're all amateurs. It might sound a bit tinny, but the message is going to be pretty clear. So anyway, so this is us, and we're just outside Christchurch in New Zealand. So here we go, we're about to start. Right, anybody would like to kick this off? Anybody? Well, I'll kick this off, it's okay. Will Donald Trump win the 2020 election?
Well, I'll answer that. I think that's quite easy to answer. Trump's economy versus Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal, which could cost as much as $90 trillion, according to the non-partisan Congressional Budget Office. Trump's strong border controls versus the Dems' open border and free healthcare for all illegal aliens. Trump versus the far-left idiots. Pete Buttigieg, who thinks transgender women can have babies. Yes, men can have babies. Elizabeth Warren, who thinks she's Pocahontas. And of course, Kamala Harris, who portrays herself as an African American. But she's the daughter of Jamaican and Indian immigrants.
In terms of the hate speech laws and the free speech issue, that people may end up getting rammed down their throats by the media here and politicians. For anyone who's listening who's new to this debate, you may get told by Labour politicians that we need to cut down on this thing that they're calling hate speech, and we need to cut down on people's free speech in order to prevent bad things happening like the mosque attack. There will be a conflation between people being able to speak their mind and the mosque attack. Don't buy it at all. It was the lack of free speech and the ability for people to speak out against Hitler's regime and against Stalin's regime and against the Khmer Rouge and any other regime that committed a genocide. It was the inability for people to speak out and the fact that they would get taken away, sent to gulags or concentration camps, or immediately killed if they tried to speak their mind out against the bad things that were happening. We need free speech in order to stop these things happening. So that conflation will be made. We also need free speech to have a functioning democracy, because this isn't my argument again. This was Jordan Peterson saying this on his Kathy Griffin interview, I think it was. Kathy Newman, sorry.
Kathy Newman, yeah.
Kathy Griffin was the Trump's head person. He said that in order to be able to think, you need to be able to risk offending people.
Yes, that's exactly correct. In order to be able to think, you need to be able to risk offending people. But not only are they taking away the speaker's voice, they're taking away the listener's hearing as well. They're taking away the listener's intellectual capacity to decide for him or herself what he or she deems to be offensive or not.
Isn't it a strange thing though with well, especially Sweden, because I think Sweden's proportionally to population, they've taken the most migrants into that country, and yet the Swedish media, much like New Zealand, only a long time before, they're shutting down freedom of speech in Sweden, and the mainstream media can't even report what these migrants, the crimes these migrants are committing. And when they do commit crimes, they actually call them Swedish men.
Yes, they can't name them as Muslim because that wouldn't quite fit with their deluded ideology, would it?
And this is a real problem, and it's especially in Sweden, because Sweden is now, and has been for quite a few years, the rape capital of the Western world. And it's only become the rape capital since mass migration from the Islamic world.
Well, I would argue Australia, our neighbour, that no one talks about. There are very few, but none of the mainstream media really talk about the African gangs there.
African gangs in Melbourne, yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's going on in Melbourne. Now, Fraser Anning talked about it a lot, but he was quickly silenced, wasn't he?
And, well, it's not just Melbourne.
Especially Melbourne, though.
But it's spreading. But again, and it's not to such a degree that some of the Sudanese parents are sending their kids back to Africa to school so they won't get caught up in these gangs and the drugs and everything else. And I heard in London too that some of them, the Somalis, because of the knife crime, because of the gangs, between, again, the sort of tribalism, because most of London, 60% is non-English, so it's all these tribal fighting going on. So the Somalis that can afford it are sending their kiddies back to Somalia, where there's actually a war going on. But it's safer there than in London.
Yeah, and I think London is a prime example of people, especially the Islamic world, and mass migration, is an example of using democracy to destroy democracy. And they've imported a massive voting bloc into London, a city of somewhere between 8 and 10 million people. And, and this is why, what's his name, Khan? This is why, is it Khan? Sadiq Khan. This is why he won mayor. This is why he became mayor of London.
Yes, and he's not going to stop there. I can guarantee he's not going to stop there. I think his next position on his agenda will be the leader of the Labour Party.
Well, I mean, one of the ways the left has been using labels to throw at people to try and shut people up for many years. I mean, we're used to these labels: Islamophobic, racist, far right, blah blah blah. It's almost as if they use one and then its currency gets inflated. And it becomes useless, and people. It just becomes like sort of like water off a duck's back, and they have to think up another word, and you become nativist or whatever. And people really do have to start just rejecting these labels, not responding, not even using these words. Is Islamophobic? I mean the phrase racist, you're Islamophobic, you're xenophobic, it's usually used by people who just simply don't have an argument to throw against you.
Exactly.
And they're trying to shut you up through. They're trying to shut you down through guilt. And
calling it hate speech.
They hate speech. What the hell does hate speech mean?
Exactly. What the hell does hate speech mean? No one can define it. Even the left can't define it. But they somehow find a way of using this term hate speech when it suits. Now this bit is about Israel Folau.
Quotes from the Bible, because he's deeply religious. Anyway, the Australian media and all these virtue-signaling politicians have basically destroyed him. I think Qantas are involved as well, because they sponsor the rugby.
Qantas have pulled the pin on him.
They pulled the pin on him, and this fella's been destroyed. And I think there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that if he was from the Islamic faith, he certainly wouldn't be experiencing what he's experiencing
Exactly.
now. And these these Marxists, these cultural Marxists, are even going after his wife now, who's a netballer for New Zealand,
Or was.
and they're trying to get her to condemn her own husband, and you know, some are even calling for her to be sacked and ruined. But this is what these people do. This is what these left-wing lunatics do, and so there is no freedom for. But the thing is, Israel Folau is a Christian, and he's expressed his opinions, and we all know now. By now, he should know by now that Christianity is under attack, and
Absolutely.
you know, and across the world, Christianity is being attacked, and it's being allowed to be attacked, and all at the same time, Islam is being promoted, and this is right across the Western world, and this is where we are, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Can you add to that?
Well, what I was struck by with the outrage of Israel Folau saying that gays will go to hell was that, I mean, first of all, he had to go at 7 other people, 7 other types of people, and in there were drunks, fornicators, liars, thieves, and atheists. And while I'm not a religious person, I think I scored at least 4 out of 8 Israel Folau go to hell points, and the leftists.
Yeah, these guys seem pretty good to me.
Leftists weren't shouting on my behalf. Now,
He's going straight to hell.
there's another point. There's another point I want to make is that why just the utter ridiculousness of it, and the fact that they're just using this argument to try and shut him up. Why are these leftists worried about somebody saying that a God that they don't believe in will send gays to a place that they don't believe exists?
Yes.
It's utter bullshit, and it's just an argument to try and shut him down.
Exactly that.
It's not virtuous.
it's-
It's not virtuous. This is virtue signaling, isn't it? Look at me, I'm virtuous.
It's done to try and generate pressure against his employer, right? So I just find the whole thing stupid. They may as well have told me that my soul was going to go to planet Zog, you know, or what they should be as bothered as if you know, Israel Folau had told gay people their soul is going to go to planet Zog,
Yeah.
because they don't. But they're atheists themselves.
Yeah.
But these people are
Really good point.
they're cultural Marxists as well, aren't they? These people, and you know,
Well, there's nothing logical in the arguments.
they're trying to destroy the West, and if this has been happening for the last 100 years.
Do you think they actually know they're trying to destroy the West?
Do you think they actually know they're trying to destroy the West? That's a very, very good question, isn't it? And I think the answer is no, they don't know. They don't know they're trying to destroy the West. The left have not grown past high school. They haven't asked a question past high school about anything. They can't even see that Islam is going to turn on gays and themselves next.
Anybody can answer that?
I agree. The National Party, for years I thought they stood for a lot of good stuff, but right at the minute I would have to say they're just Labour in a different colour.
Exactly.
Well, Winston Peters, I mean, New Zealand First, he really let his base down. He is.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. The guy is a complete turncoat. He has now positioned squarely positioned his party to the radical left now. So who does that leave in New Zealand? Well, I think right now there's only one party that even remotely represents us, and that's the New Conservatives. Now, I went to a meeting of theirs maybe a couple of weeks back, and they weren't so bad. They were actually quite good, and they are listening, and they are open to new ideas and new policies, and they want to hear from people, which is quite constructive. So I think they're actually worth a look. Yes, folks, I strongly recommend you watch the entire Cross the Rubicon video because there's a lot of good stuff in it. And so I've posted a link to it in the description below.